Hey everyone, welcome back to Chocolate and Spice to Brown Women Talk. I'm Nidhi, 14 years married and a mom to a very active 6-year-old.
And I'm Neha, married for 21 years, and I have a 19-year-old son. And I'm going to introduce you to my husband of 21 years. Here's Ashish. He's just popped in to say hi. And we're going to be talking a lot about relationships today. So, between my sister and I, we've lived the full arc, diapers to dorm rooms, and we've seen how parenthood transforms marriage, the identity shifts, the joy, the resentment, the stability, and the surprising way love evolves.
And research shows that about 67% of couples see a significant drop in relationship satisfaction after having their first child.
But stats don't tell the whole story, right? They don't capture the stillness, the stability, or the moments that make you fall in love all over again. So today we're diving into the good, the bad, and the messy truth of marriage after kids and what it takes to keep going through different seasons of parenthood. Nidhi, I'm going to start with you because, Vikram is pretty young and you are in the thick of parenthood and obviously working out with your relationship. So the question for you is, how did becoming parents change the fundamental dynamics of your marriage?
Honestly, I feel like the shift began even before our son was born during pregnancy. It's like my body was changing, my hormone was all over the place, and my husband had like no clue. He was excited to become a father, but he didn't really understand what was going on with my body. And in the first trimester, I had intense nausea, and he was so excited. He thought I had to eat more, so he would take me out to eat a lot, and then I wouldn't be able to eat. And he just wouldn't understand why I'm so tired all the time and why am I not eating. And that was like a wake up call for me when I had to tell him, look, you need to do your research. You need to figure out what happens to a woman's body throughout all of these trimesters. So that was the first big communication shift in me saying, you need to meet me where I am at, not, where you imagine where we should be. And then after our son was born, then, the dynamic changed again. It deepened, I would say. And nothing prepares you, and I think you'll agree, and nothing prepares you for how extreme the newborn stage is. Like people tell you, you won't sleep, but you don't get it unless you really, really understand what chronic sleep deprivation is. So, my body was going through so much, and I was breastfeeding. I was on a maternity leave. He had to go back to work after 2 weeks. And, and he was sleeping. We were sleeping in the same room, and he was snoring. And he was snoring and waking up the newborn, and he was waking me up. And at that time, I had to tell him that, hey, this is not working. You need to move to the guest room. And it might sound harsh, but I think that might have saved our marriage because I was not resenting at that time him sleeping and me doing so much. And, all of those things, just, this communication really helped. And that was a part of us realizing that marriage after kids is about redefining partnership in real practical ways. So I don't know how you feel about this, but since it is fairly new to me, I feel like the trauma has not gone away of the newborn stage.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like I mentioned earlier in my introduction for audiences. My son is 19, going to be 20 soon, so it's been a while, and our relationship has shifted a lot along with how he has grown. I don't fully remember exactly the exact emotions I had, but I think the story of my relationship is slightly different from yours. There's a nuance to it because if I remember correctly, in the you guys were married for like 5 or 6 years before you decided to have Vikram, right? In my case, within a year of our marriage, we decided to have a kid. So there is a difference in the relationship longevity, the structure of it. So we were fairly new to each other when I got pregnant. And again, remember, for our audience, it was an arranged marriage, which means my husband and I didn't really know each other very deeply or as deeply as you'd expect in a typical love marriage. So we were still learning about each other, and I got pregnant. So there's additional responsibility and things you have to do when you get pregnant. So again, I don't really remember whether we fought or not, but maybe because we were so new and it was such an exciting time. So we were both so young. We were just so excited and full of energy that we didn't really think there was much argument. And also I was very young, so I have a feeling a lot of the time I did not argue with my husband much. And unlike you, I hadn't found myself as much. So I would go with the flow of whatever was happening. And I have mentioned in some of our other podcasts of how much I suffered in my pregnancy. Only because I did not know how to take care of myself or to ask for help. And this is an extension of that. Like in our relationship, I just didn't feel confident enough to go and ask for help or mention when something was not going right. So, and after the birth of our son, oh gosh, I definitely remembered the sleepless nights and all of that. And yeah, he used to sleep in a different room, and for me, just to make sure that he doesn't get disturbed, because he'd have to go, like I was on my leave, but he'd have to go work the other day, and so it was on me. So it was like a full day, no rest marathon for me for at least his newborn phase. I don't think I got a lot of help from him, to be very, very honest, in the first or second year of my son's, after my son's birth.
All
So
right.
interesting.
And you did mention that obviously you had Aryan very early, like first year of marriage. But is there any part of pre-kid relationship that you miss? Like in my case, I miss the spontaneity. Like you mentioned that I was married for like six years before we decided to have a kid. So there are parts where it was just both of us.
Mm.
So it was like, we have to go for dinner. We just get up and go for dinner. We need to go out somewhere. We just pack our bags and go. We would have like lazy Saturday, whole day sleeping. And I don't think in the 6 years of having my kid, I've slept in even a single day. I've forgotten what it means to sleep past like 7 a.m. So once we had Vikram, once we had the baby, everything became about planning, logistic, calendars. Even something as simple as going out for dinner involves getting a sitter, checking the nap time, being prepared with snacks and all of that. So that's a part of us that I sometimes miss. And obviously, it's gotten better because he's 6 years old. He's a little bit more independent. But our time together is a lot about dividing responsibilities and who is doing the pickup, who is ordering things, and who is paying this bill. So I do miss that, ease and playfulness of just being husband and wife, and not constantly like mom and dad, and always have this worry in your mind about, taking care of a living human being.
Hmm, that's very interesting. From what I remember, yeah, I mean, of course, there is incredible structure when you have a kid around, and you have to make sure your life is around that kid structure. Uh, but interestingly, I don't think either of us ever felt it much. If anything, I kind of feel like that structure helped us to be more disciplined. So now, of course, you'd get more tired, and all of that is true, and the spontaneity was lost. In fact, I remember my husband and I joke with each other that it's only after our son left for college that we even recognize we have any topic to talk about, or we started discovering stuff about it. It's like such an incredible feeling, because I think until he was with us at home, we used to mostly talk about him. Like ultimately, it could have started with a different topic, but then we would, okay, always like go back to our son, or what we are planning, and our family and things like that. So I think that is very true. When you have kids around, your mind is fully occupied by that, and then how do you make sure your relationship uh, blossoms with that?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I did anything extra, but I do realize we missed out on a lot because we didn't particularly, like you and Siddharth, you guys make sure to have specific time for yourselves. I don't think we ever did it. Um Good for us that we were fine, but we're doing that now after our son left for. In fact, once our son started going to high school and didn't
But
want to
that's
stick
pros and
around.
cons, right? I mean, that's we always talk about what are the pros and cons of having kids early versus having kid late. You are a perfect example of having kid in your early 20s, and now even in your late 30s, you could do your own thing. You had, you rekindled, or not rekindled, not that it was lost, but you started having time together. In my case, I got time in my 20s, but I decided to have Vikram in my 30s. So I had, it's a little bit of different chemistry. But yeah, I mean, I've seen you and Giaji, you and your husband, like talk about different topics, and kind of not just talk about your son, but you talk about different things. And that's something I've learned from you, and that's something I do with my husband. Like, obviously we talk about son, he's always a priority, but we make sure we talk about other things. Like, we read something, we bring it up. There's news, something happening, we talk about that topic, so that we keep each other informed, but we also have this little you know time for discussion. And I think that is one thing that is also, like, since we are talking about marriage or relationship after kid, that is something that also keeps the spark alive.
I 100% agree. And in fact, there's this funny thing. I call it funny, but I really appreciate it. So my husband and I now have a ritual. It's called coffee date. We call it coffee date. And we've been doing it for several years now. My son's in third year at college, and we started doing it when he just entered high school. So I don't know, six, however many years that is. What we do in that is we both go out every weekend, at least one day every weekend, if not two, to a coffee place, like a cafe, because we both discovered like that's one place we both agree we are both like, which is coffee. Because if it were a dinner or lunch date, we would first of all fight over where we want to go, and then we just eat, perhaps not talk. And coffee is a place where, cafe is a place where you can just sit and chill. So that was why we decided on coffee dates. And it is truly a date because we both would go out. I would dress up. I always dress up for my coffee dates. And that would make me feel like it's an important occasion, just to give it a sense of importance. And then we go drive and go to a cafe. We try to find new cafes. So that's an interesting adventure. And we just sit down, order a large coffee, order some bakery goods, and talk for hours. Like sometimes we've spent two or three, like 3 4 hours go by and we don't realize, but at the very least 1 or 2 hours. And because we have nothing else to do, there is no distraction, it's just a coffee. And the rule is no phones, so we both look at each
Oh,
other and we,
nice. I love that rule.
yeah,
That
yeah,
is
no phones. if
so
if one of us pick up a phone, the other calls us, the other one out, and so no phone. And we try to talk to each other, and if we don't have anything to talk, we'll sit together in silence, which is still fine, but we spend that time with each other. And we both really appreciate it because we realize like the amount of talk we've had in that date, and we've had like hundreds and hundreds of dates by now, we cannot have at home. Like, if even if we try to duplicate that situation at home, it doesn't work out. Because we might switch on the TV and then we get distracted by TV, we're not really listening. Or say Millie, our dog, she comes and then I start petting her. Or randomly somebody opens a laptop and a work thing comes up. So at least for us, a new environment really helps foster that feeling of adventure and newness, and keeps, I feel like when we talk about keeping the spark alive, in my opinion, for my marriage, it has been very, very helpful, particularly after we were empty nesters, because it is probably a topic for another discussion. But empty nester is a really strange feeling, especially given we both were very, very involved parents. And so, what now? Like, what is our identity? Who are we to each other? There were so many questions I can go on and on about. And this grounded us. It's like, oh, we like each other actually. Oh, that's why we are together. Oh, we don't just love each other, we like each other, we like to talk with each other, we like to just sit with each other, and it's cool. So yeah, talking about communication style, like, we are very different people, my husband and I, very, very different. But these bonding moments keep the spark alive.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think throughout the relationship, the communication has to evolve, right? Without it, I feel we would have cracked, like our relationship would have cracked under pressure in the first few months. Because once you have a child, like, I think if you don't have a good communication, that can break or make things. At least that's what I feel. The first year is so important. And for us, it really helped to like set up routine and structure. And whether it's like calendar to set up, like, organize things around. And we became more honest. we became more direct. We didn't like hold back. I don't think when you have a child, you have luxury of holding back anything. And that is really worked well for us. So yeah, I mean, we have people always say communication is a key in a relationship, but I do feel that not holding back anything and truly communicating and learning how to do it in a gentle manner is a skill that I have learned in this 14 years.
Oh yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Like, because no two people are alike.
Yeah.
And in your case, in my case, we're both very different from our respective spouses. And so there is room for error, right? Like there is room for misunderstanding. And the only way you prevent that is by openly speaking out. So that's been, I mean, this was a learned experience. I wasn't always ready to speak about myself. And you know me, like it's hard for me to open up, but I feel like over time, the more I opened up, the better we
Mhm.
got in terms of relationship. And again, I do not remember the details as you know my son was growing up and how our relationship evolved. But I do think, to a great extent, we would speak up. Like if we didn't like the way one of us was parenting the child, or like I wanted my son to learn piano, he really wasn't keen on it. He couldn't understand the point of why he our son needed to learn piano. And I took a decision, like I was like, it has to happen. And he went along with it. And so that was an example of where, you know, even if you don't agree, like you disagree and commit, like, and it worked out fine. And similarly, I did the same for certain decisions. Like he would every weekend, even with the kid, like you were mentioning how hard it is to go out with a kid. I think regardless of what age our son was, we would go out every weekend. And that was very hard because we were both fully working parents, and at different ages, you know, our son wanted to go out or not go out or had his own needs. And I had to figure out, because my husband would not help me in that. So I had to figure out the whole thing and how to keep my son happy, how to keep ourselves occupied. And it would be a tax on me, because more than myself enjoying those moments, I would spend time making sure both of those folks enjoyed their time. And so for a very long time, I don't think I enjoyed going out, but I did it anyway, because I was like, you know, there is a balance. I
Mhm.
make some choices, he makes some choices, and it's okay. We gotta adjust. So yeah, I mean, it's very hard. Like the only thing I've learned from all of this is there is no traditional role. To a great extent, I used to do everything for our son in terms of cooking and cleaning and his homework and things like that. And now my husband does most of the stuff, and it's totally okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, traditional role, like as a mother, there are a lot of things that you have to do. There is no outsourcing it to your husband
yeah,
in those ways. So, but initially, when I became a mother, I had like no clue what I was doing. It was like even connecting with the baby was hard. But very quickly, I did realize that this is the most important job I'll ever have. It's like raising a child, like shaping a human being. But at the same time, I also knew that I didn't want to do it alone. I wanted to do it with my husband, and not just as like co-partner, but like a co-parent, but as a partner, like somebody to witness how much joy it brings to, bring this human into the world and, see this person grow and be happy and strong. So that is where a little bit of my connection did shift. And it was not just about us as a couple anymore. It was about us as a team building something bigger than us. So this is exactly what he talked about. Like you compromise, but you know that you're working towards something.
yeah. And do you think you lost yourself in motherhood?
I mean, initially, yes, in the first year, it was so incredibly hard. Like, I was struggling, I was burned out. And then when Vikram was 9 months old, COVID hit, we all were home. He had just learned how to walk, and I had a full time job. I was totally burnt out. But at the back of my mind, I always knew that uh, I'm more than a mother. That I always knew that I'm not born just to be a mom. And that is something that stayed with me. So even when I was like thrown into changing diapers and Zoom calls, I always was able to hold on to pieces of myself outside of motherhood. So slowly, when he started becoming more independent, when Vikram was like 2 or 3 years old, I went back to my things that brought me joy, going back to my career. Like, obviously I started work after 3 months, but then like climbing the career ladder, I had more time for it, meeting with my friends, going back to my hobbies. So, yeah, eventually, the first year, yeah, I did lose myself, but I found myself again and in a better way. Like, I didn't go back to the same person I was. I became a better version of myself because I learned how to manage my time better. I learned how to prioritize better. I learned how precious my energy is. I learned how precious my time is and who to give my time. So it was a better version of me. So yeah, that
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah, that's a very helpful thing you just mentioned, because I do think, especially the first year, of once you have a kid, the first year is just one of those times where you have to dedicate more of yourself to the baby. And it's very easy to get lost. But in terms of relationship, also it's hard because you are far more lost in the baby than in yourself, and therefore, consequently, of course, with your husband, and who therefore gets the least amount of your time and energy. So it's hard for me to imagine what they feel, what my husband felt when I didn't give him. In fact, in my case, I did lose myself in motherhood for very, very long, not just the first year. My identity was incredibly entrenched with becoming a mother. So even though I had a full-time job, and I was doing a lot of other things, I had other activities I used to participate in, being a mother seemed to me like the ultimate thing to do. And I really appreciate you saying that you have made sure to keep your own spark alive, because one, that is important for self, but also for our relationships. I feel like only when you keep your own spark alive as a person
Mhm.
can you also help your partner feel that spark. Because I sometimes wonder, like, maybe husbands, especially if they're not that deeply entrenched into fatherhood as we are into motherhood, they must get a shock to their
Yeah,
system, right?
yeah,
What, who are they in this equation? Uh, you know,
yeah.
so I don't
Uh,
know. We
I have
should
an
empathize with dads or not, but
We should bring them in, but why? Since they're not in, it'll just are part of the story. But when you saw your husband, Jiaji, like when you saw your partner as a parent, like how did your love for him change?
it's an interesting thing you bring about, because again, what I was hinting at earlier was that I was far more entrenched, or I recognized myself as a mother, as a parent, far more than I feel like my husband did. Now, if I were to ask my husband, I'm pretty sure he'd disagree and he'd say he was very much involved. But I'm talking about visibly, like in terms of action and how much you talk and the emotion you show. So to that end, I was so into that world of motherhood that I do feel like I neglected him. And while I don't feel guilty about it, it's very hard for me to therefore say, if I recognize anything newer in him in that phase. Again, because I was just so involved in my son's life. But he was always very sweet. Like, he was always very supportive. He was always somebody who'd make sure my health was prioritized, or whatever I'd ask him to do for our son, he'd do it. So it kept going, and I truly, I mean, I'm being very, very honest here, I never sat until, again, my our son turned 15 or 16 and was old enough that he didn't need my attention. Until then, I never truly sat down and analyzed what happened to our relationship. It was like one of those things where another day as usual, you know there's nothing new happening, and we're fine as we are. We don't have to do, like, it was like status quo. Whatever is happening is happening. And then there came a point where, like, oh wait, you know oh, you're special, you got all of these qualities I'd forgotten about. And then he discovered those things in me, and then I feel like we bonded more. So a lot of learning experiences for me, I guess.
But it's such an honest conversation. Like you're being so honest. Like the first 14, 15 years, you kind of were in that auto mode, right? You're just
Oh,
doing the same thing every day. Your priority is always a son, and the other partner is like a roommate. Like you're doing the things together, but you're not really paying attention. But then after he moved out, you were still able to like rediscover your relationship, which has its own charm, right? uh,
yeah, yeah, I think so. And did you, I mean, you are still very much in the throes of it, given Vikram is so young, but do you feel like you are yourself again already, or are you still working towards it?
I think I'm good now.
That's cool. That's very good.
No, I mean,
You,
no, I found myself again. I was lost a couple of years, but I said I truly made an attempt. I
hmm,
started working out whenever I felt ready. I got help, like we talked about in the motherhood episode too. I got help. I was not afraid to spend money on getting all the help I needed, and my husband supported. So that's where the partnership comes in. Like he supported me, and he understood how important it is for a mom or a mother to be happy, because he realized if I'm tired, I'm not happy, i I make sure nobody else is happy. And you
I
know me, how cranky and rude I get when I'm
know.
not fed and when
I
I'm
know. And Siddharth and I, both of us call you out on it. It's like sometimes you are very rude, and these days Vikram does it too. So
I know. So that's why I have understood the triggers, which make me not a good person. I'm working on myself, but yeah, as far as that getting out of that early motherhood, I think I feel good about it. There's still obviously days when I'm in the auto mode, just like you. It's like just scheme do the same thing, but I try to pause and think about you know what I'm grateful for in my partner, in my family, in you, my parents, whatever. So I think I'm making an intentional effort towards it, which is wonderful.
yeah, that's absolutely lovely. And I think like because we're talking about kids, the other thing that occurs to me, it may not have happened with Vikram already, but thinking about my son, he watched our relationship, just like I'm sure Vikram is closely watching your. And there came a time when he could verbalize what he was thinking about our relationship. And I remember he would start questioning things about our relationship. It's like, you guys don't talk, or you guys don't really know each other. And like, it is incredible to hear from a 10-year-old the state of your own relationship, because you are in an auto mode. You don't sit down and think, oh, what do I love about my husband, or what is going wrong, because you have to get stuff done. And but your kid is watching you. Your kid is noticing there are fewer hugs, or there are fewer chats. And I do feel like that helped. But also, I wouldn't have wanted a kid to have to go through the motions. But I have a balanced approach to it. It's like, and then my son and I did chat about it, and we talked about it. I wanted to be as open as possible about my relationship with my son, so that, one, he understands where we are coming from, and two, like, hopefully he learns from any mistakes we may have made. So it's just like another interesting angle to the whole story, where you don't have to build a relationship to prove a point to your kid, but the kid is watching. And
They absorb everything. I mean,
so
I don't know if you remember I was when I was thinking about preparing for this episode, I was thinking back to our like when we were growing up, what we saw our parents do. So when we were growing up, I don't know if you remember, Papa obviously loved Ma, and he always respected Ma, and he showed it in his own way. And there was one time when I think we were not being kind to our mother, or we were arguing with, I don't know what the case was, but Papa suddenly said, if you disrespect Ma, if you talk to her like that, there is no place for you in this house. Anybody who disrespects my wife has no space in this house. And I was so shocked when he said it. I was like, wait, is he going to throw us out of the house? So I mean, I was young, so I was like, oh my god,
zero
he's
or one.
going to throw us out. But Papa was standing up for Ma, and that shaped my idea of respect in marriage. So to your point, like I remember this, like it was so many years back, and that kind of makes such a mark on me on what love, respect in a marriage is, and standing up for your partner. So I'm pretty sure the kids are watching, right?
Yeah. And same, like, does it matter if we are arguing in front of them?
Hmm.
And in my opinion, no. To an extent, you don't have to go and open up your whole life story in front of the kid, depending upon their age. But then they get to see the evolution. They get to see that relationships aren't meant to be this fairy tale, perfect romantic story. There are ups and downs because at least, my son would question me a lot about arranged marriage and love marriage, on which we've also done a podcast with him. And he could just never understand. He could just never understand how we were married with each other if we didn't love each other. And he never understood that we did love each other. It was after the fact instead of before the fact. So he would always use that lens to say, "Oh, you guys don't love each other. That's why you're fighting." And then I had to tell, like, no, even if we had loved each other to the moon and then married, fighting is a natural course of event of two people living with each other. So I feel like these are valuable lessons.
Yeah, these are valuable lessons. And Aryan asked all of this. I'm assuming he was like 10 or 11. He had
Yeah.
more comprehension, like he understood more. Like Vikram is 6 and he sees us argue. Like we are human, we disagree with each other. And I've noticed that when we argue, he kind of gets scared.
Mhm.
He kind of retreats to a corner. And I see that it affects him and we acknowledge it. We are pretty aware. But we also try to make sure that he sees us resolve an argument. And my husband and I make an attempt that he sees that, my husband and I shake hands, all right, resolve. Or we try to communicate to him after, and I try to go back and say that, hey, just because mama, papa argue, that doesn't mean we don't love each other. We are adults, we disagree, we have our own opinions, we don't always agree on everything, but that's okay. So I don't know how much of it understands. We'll find out later. But at least I make sure that he hears these words because I do want him to understand that marriage is not perfect and it's not conflict free, right? I mean, I think that is very important lesson that we can give our kids. Like marriage has its own seasons, right? We all have had seasons of ups and downs and good times, not good times, but we all make it work. And
Yeah.
I want him to understand that. And we try to show physical love to each other. I always say thank you to my husband when he does something good. One other thing that I help Vikram understand is people have different ways of showing love. Like if Siddharth, my husband, like his way of showing love is not through gifts or flowers. He does his own thing. Like he washes my car every weekend, he fills the gas, he does the state inspection, he does all of these things. So I make sure that I tell Vikram that, hey, this is how Papa shows love. It's not always through gifts or flowers or cake. There are different ways people express love, and that is okay. So again, I try my best. And most of the time, I don't even know what I'm doing with my son, but yeah.
Yeah, and even like the point that you touched about, even for the two adults in the relationship,
Mhm.
this question, even today, 21 years into marriage, I wonder if my husband could have given me more gifts. And then I think to myself, can a sillier human being exist, right? Really, are gifts truly the embodiment of a person's feelings? Potentially, but potentially not, because that other person could do so many other things to indicate love. And so, to your point, you know my husband, right? Like he has never given me a gift, and the one or two times that in my life that he's given me gifts is after I've pushed him a bunch and shamed him into giving me a gift. And I'm a very gift loving person, right? Like I love giving gifts and I love receiving gifts. So for very long, I kept wondering if something is wrong in our relationship because I don't get gifts. But to your point, he does so many other things.
Yeah.
If I just close my eyes, or don't even close my eyes, just pause for a minute and just think, I realize he has done so much for me. Why do I need a gift for him to further indicate that he loves me when, he'll take me wherever I want to go. He will wash the dishes. I have to just say what I want to eat, and he will help with that. Like these are very even silly examples. There are obviously deeper examples of things he has done for me in my life that I am incredibly grateful for. And all of that is coming from a place of love, not from a place of I don't know what. Like it is definitely a love in a relationship. So I do think, like, um especially when we are young, you know we think, oh, love and romance in marriage means it's 50-50, and it's a lot of gift giving, going to beautiful places and hanging out. My idea of a great relationship is if every day you're balanced, you are able to talk to each other freely, you're able to come to a conclusion more easily than not, and you don't mind spending time with each other, what more do you want in life, really? Right? Like that is amazing stability. That world is chaotic. Life will throw crazy stuff at you. You need that stability to just breathe and know you have somebody you can lean on. For me, that person who I can lean on is the best gift I could have got.
Yeah. And setting the expectation, I think you brought a point about 50-50,
Yeah.
and wanted to share an example when our parents were here when Vikram was born. And in the initial stages, I was very dissatisfied. Like I was always complaining to my mom that Siddharth is not doing this. That's like I'm doing everything. And that's where mummy had told me that always remember that, especially after you have a kid, marriage is not 50-50. It's going to look 20-80, 70-30. And the sooner you understand it and kind of accept it, the better it is for you. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. It eventually would even out, but with the thought that everything is going to be equally divided, never works. So yeah, I mean, for me also, it's like at the older I get, the more I appreciate the calmness, the calmness in a relationship, the fact that my husband and I can just sit together. We don't even have to talk. Most of the time, I'm so tired. Something happened at work, and I think I'm going to talk to him about it, complain about it. By the time it's dinner time, I'm so tired that I don't even speak about it. But the fact that we both can just sit and quietly have dinner and then watch our TV for 30 minutes and go to bed, that is pure joy. I don't want anything else in life. I know the movies and social media portrays a different picture to all of us, like flowery thing, going to Euro trips and, having all that fun. For me, it's just the older I get, the more I understand whoever matches my wavelength and matches my energy and supports me is the best partner.
Absolutely 100% agree. Couldn't say that more. Like every evening come back and know you both are aligned on what's going to happen. Isn't that the best thing in the world? Like what more do you want? So I think we've chatted a lot, and I know we can go on and on about this.
As we wrap things up, I think one thing that's very clear is that marriage after kids isn't any less love. It's just a different love story. It's just you are a different person. You're a more mature person, and sometimes things are quieter. Sometimes it's harder, but it's also more layered and resilient.
Yeah,
What do you?
it don't 100% agree. And we've learned that, the secret isn't keeping things the same. Like it's not going to be exactly the same for first year to 21st year, but we have to keep choosing each other through thick and thin. And yeah, with that, to anyone listening, whether you're navigating toddler tantrums or teenage rebellion, no, you're not alone. Most couples struggle, and what matters is protecting the friendship, finding ways back to each other, and remembering that investing in your marriage is investing in your family.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was just our experience, and we were sharing our story. It was not meant to be a lesson, but you'll get this podcast wherever you get your podcast. Visit us at chocolateandspicetalk.com. Leave us a comment, engage with us. That truly helps us. All right. See you next time.